So, I don't know. I'm putting out a lot of videos. I'm trying to do this when I have my mind straight and I kind of know where I want to go. I started off with some videos talking about like religious stuff, the Bible, um, the ancient texts from Samaria and all the other places, archaeology, stuff like that that's going on. That's kind of like, I mean, the arguments are nonstop, and I see people um, on YouTube. I watch some YouTube, and it's amazing the stuff that pops up on my recommended. Lately, there's been a lot of like I've watched some Bible stuff. Is the Bible real? Is Genesis real? Is this correct? Is that correct? And some of the stuff people say um, is crazy to me. Um, and I understand people are trying to defend their book that they believe in. And some people believe that it's 100% literal. Other ones will say no, some of it is not meant to be taken literal. And um, they try to defend the stories that make no sense. And the math doesn't add up. Um, Genesis, it doesn't take Genesis very long to contradict itself. It doesn't take very long for you to go, okay, wait, which creation story is correct? And some use one and some use two. And I've gone to church and I've, you know, listened to sermons and I enjoy them for the most part. I enjoy the people singing and having a good time and, just hanging out with each other. I think that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. It's a good thing for your energy. Um, and I think Sunday was always meant for a recharge day. Not necessarily to just, everybody takes a day off, but, everybody needs a recharge day. It doesn't have to be Sunday. Um, from the original text, there was no it was Monday that they started and then they took Sunday off as the seventh day. Nobody knows exactly when the seventh day is from the original texts. All they know is in almost all of the texts from the original to the Hebrew that they did take off the seventh day, and they said, you know what, from now on, this seventh day will be the day we take off, the day we, take inventory of what we need to take inventory of, and just kind of take a break from the work that we're doing. The original story is really interesting, and that's kind of why I started making these videos. But I kept saying, okay, where am I going with all this, and how am I gonna bring it to a head, and what's my end goal? I think I just want to tell people what I've learned, and maybe they will say, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying, and you know, I've had people jump down my throat when I challenge the Bible, and I don't think that's very cool. Hear me out before you start jumping down my throat and trying to defend your book. I've done a lot of research, and I've heard a lot of things, and I've seen a lot of things in my lifetime, and you know, you have you can't be just walking around asleep. You have to be paying attention. It's funny, my last girlfriend told me she was like amazed at how much I did pay attention to things, and I was like, yeah, I notice things. I catch things that you do. I know what you're saying. But you can't dictate to me what I can and cannot say, can and cannot do. That's no. And people say, well, love is tough, and yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes you have to walk away from things that, are not good for you. Um, yeah. So, getting started on this Bible thing, and I know it's going to make people mad and they're going to try to defend it, but that's not the point of all this. The point of this is my perspective and what I see. Chill out, relax. So I start reading the Bible and it says God created the earth and the heavens, right? Okay, great. And then, like, right away, it starts to not make sense. Okay, God did this, God did that, and they try to make it sound like the earth was created before the rest of the universe. Here we go with that egotistical, the humans are so important that God did made this place for them. He already had a plan, and the earth was there first. Well, I got bad news for you. The earth was not here before the rest of the solar system, and there's evidence of that. Um, I don't even know if I can say evidence, but there are stories about how other things in the cosmos, um, stories about some things that happened, and it kind of makes sense when you think about it. But the problem is the stories are so crazy, and then you have to understand Genesis and the origins of Genesis and where they came from and all the different stories and the different versions and um, the evidence of which stories are being um, which stories have more evidence to back them up, I guess you'd say. And I've been in and out of believing the Bible and believing in God and believing in Jesus, and it's been a back and forth tug of war because that's just the way the human mind works. Is this right? Is this wrong? This doesn't make any sense. Well, I think the biggest disservice that most Christians do is they defend their book so harshly and so adamantly that they absolutely refuse to believe there's any mistakes, even though there are thousands of versions of this book, and there's been mistranslations that had to be fixed. There's stories that um, they're like, okay, this is a problem. We have to fix this, and I don't know if that's the same thing happened with the Hebrew Bible or not, or the what is it called, the Torah. Um, I don't know if that happened in there too or not, but I know the Christian Bible has had many, many updates, you might say. Why? It's because I hear people say this all the time. This is God's true word. I'm sorry, God did not write this on paper. God did write in the original story, God did write something. He didn't write it himself. He had a scribe write it for him. And he wrote it on stone, supposedly lapis lazuli. If you know what that is a blue rock, and Apparently the ancients loved their blue rocks, and I do too. Isn't that cool? I love the color blue, and I don't know why. That's just a pretty color to me. And then after he was all done taking down all these notes for, actually his name back then was Lord Enki in the original story, and he wanted the truth to be known, and he wanted to store these tablets somewhere so that later on humankind could find the history, their history. But the funny thing is it was also God's history, the gods, not God, the God. And what's funny is these uh, guys who are running around acting like gods, um, they talked about the one and only God, the great creator, and things happened to them which kind of align with some of the things that happened to me, and I was like, okay, so like I said, God sends you on this path, and there's a reason he sent you on your path, and it's to figure it all out. A lot of people will read a book and they'll say, oh yeah, okay, yep, I agree with all that, so therefore it is true. Read another book, read other books. You can't just read one book and say, okay, it's 100% true. Do some digging. There are a lot of books out there, and people make really good claims and really good arguments for things. And then there's other people that will listen to those arguments and say, that doesn't make any sense either. Here's my theory, and it keeps going and going and going. And eventually, you get to the point where, okay, one of these guys is making sense, and then they're going to have some evidence for that argument. And what's funny is there's a lot of evidence being dug up right now. And if you want evidence of our past, you're going to have to dig. If the Great Flood was correct and it did happen, you're going to have to dig. Everything was buried. Everything was destroyed. And you're going to have to dig to find the truth. And that's what's happening all over the place. There's one place where this guy was talking about an archaeological dig, and they dug down, and they got to a spot where they're like, okay, this is the Iron Age, and this was the so-and-so culture. Well, what they didn't realize is if they would have kept digging, they would have got to the next level, and they found out, oh, well, this is okay, this era, and then keep digging some more, and they found, oh, well, yeah, there was another era. So this flood thing, there could have been like a worldwide flood. It makes sense to me that there's a lot of evidence to support that, and then there's evidence to not support it, which is kind of, still, I want to believe it, but the words that are told and the way things are described, yeah, and then the evidence can back it up, but there's also evidence that maybe there's an anomaly that happened, and there's ways for people to kind of explain their way out of it. There's a lot of digging going on right now, and Turkey is one of them. And some amazing things have been discovered, and it's making sense. And it kind of supports the Bible stories, but it kind of it supports the other original stories even more than the biblical version of things. And I'm just talking about Genesis. I'm not talking about all the other stuff, because the Hebrews had their own story that they went on after that. So, on to the next one.